I'd like to welcome everybody to the Coaches in the Mouth pod. This is Coach Jeff Williams along with Coach Daryl Fimple. The Mouth Brent Bender is on assignment, coming back from the University of Tennessee. We got Coach Bray Cook. Oh, my God, Coach Cook, please tell me you lost a bet.
Yeah, we had a little bit of too much faith in the old Hogs yesterday.
Oh, my God.
A couple of fumbles away from taking that one home. So we're wearing orange today, unfortunately.
Wearing orange. Well, the Mouth's coming back from there. Is very disappointed. Coach Fimp, you were up in Missouri last night watching Missouri and Alabama.
Watching a little Alabama, try to get us to pull through there. Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. Unbelievable what they've actually done there.
Unbelievable. Well, let's go ahead before we get started. Let's thank our sponsors.
Just a kid from Alma, too, by the way.
Just kid from Alma.
Kid from Alma.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well, let's go ahead and thank our sponsors. The Coaches Pod Network is sponsored by Lindsey and Associates. Our Player of the Week is sponsored by C.R. Crawford Construction. Also sponsors Monetary Lending, The Collective, Ben's Apartment, Sports Clips, Hootens, and the Pigs brand, and we are the official podcast of ARFCA. Well, let's go ahead, Coach Cook. Let's start in Coach Cook's corner here. Let's start with the recap from last week. What did you learn, Coach Cook? I mean, Springdale goes over to beats Crosstown rival Harbor. Rogers, it has to be the story of it. Talk to us a little bit, your thoughts, what you saw.
I was at that Rogers game. You know, I've seen highlights. I've seen clips of that quarterback there, but, man, to see him in person was, man, something else. That kid is the real deal. Looked like a little bit of Johnny Manziel out there, just flying around, a couple spin moves, a couple ridiculous last-second throws. I don't know how anybody in the state stops that kid because he's very talented.
Well, obviously nobody stopped him. They put up a 70 spot.
I mean,
good
he's
gracious.
He's very, very fast.
He is extremely fast.
I mean, he is so fast. Yes.
Crazy. I mean, and whatever you do, you're wrong. And so, I thought Bentonville West would come in and give him a game, and
there's no doubt.
It would. I mean, it was over quick. Talk to us a little bit, Coach Cook. You the Harbor Wildcats. You're the live stream guy there. Springdale coming over. A lot of people, everybody pretty much on this show felt like Harbor had the advantage. Springdale, Brett Hobbs comes in over there and just probably played their best football game all year.
And that's the thing with Springdale, man. You really can't ever count them out. They're going to show up to a game that like you said, everyone I think in the state expected Harbor to just come in there and take care of business, and you cannot count out the Bulldogs, especially with Brett Hobbs at the helm. They showed up and made some pretty impressive plays, including that pick six to finish the game. And man, what a staple win for Springdale.
Yeah, 54-yard field goal too, buddy. 54-yard field goal in that one.
Would have
been good for 60. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, Daryl, let's go down in Central Arkansas. Looks like Conway starting to kind of hit their stride a little bit, looking pretty good. Took care of Cabot, and Bryant continues to do what they do.
Oh, yes. Yeah, both of them. And, Bryant got off to a slow start again. Everybody says a slow start. The first, half there was 14-14 for a little while, and then they just got so many weapons, and they use them so well offensively. And then defensively, you still can't move the McDonald kid inside, and those linebackers stay clean the entire game. It's really rough inside. Their front seven's phenomenal at Bryant. Conway's kind of figured it out, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure Coach James is fired up because, man, you want to talk about physical this week. They got a little physical. 253 yards from Trey Davis on the ground, and they weren't shying away from running the ball. I think Cabot actually knew they were running the ball. They were still running the ball. So that knows that you were doing a really good job offensively there with Conway. And then I think defensively, they bent a little bit, but they figured out some things there. Cabot, they still have some, big guys up front too. They can move some bodies too. But I think Conway's playing really well right now.
They are. Let's talk about our small schools a little bit. Hamburg takes care of Uncle Bo. I mean, very impressive. Gave up a lot of points early in that one. Also, EPC squeaks out against Cross County, and we talked about it. Clinton went over to Dardanelle. They win by 2 in a tough, and then upset Hampton over Carlisle. Salem got pushed by Atkins. Talk to us a little bit what's going on with our small schools.
Yeah, Salem and Atkins. That was a 20-16 game right here. It's a couple turnovers there. Dardanelle. Tell you the truth, Dardanelle got, I guess you could say every once in a while you got to get lucky because down there at the end, they turned it over. And then, Clinton ended up getting throwing a pick there towards the end of the game. But man, Clinton Clinton kept the possessions down and kind of kept Vega, in as much as you can in wrap. But Dardanelle did show something defensively there in that game. They kind of bowed up and stopped the run there a little bit. Of course, most of them guys. I think Vega had 10 tackles.
Yeah.
So they had. I mean, so those guys all over the place. But yeah, there were some great small school games. The Hampton Carlisle game.
Yeah. Shocker.
And I'm sure Monday morning at some coffee shop in Carlisle, they're going to replay that game.
They're going to replay it. They do that over there
Yeah.
in Carlisle,
And
baby.
that's going to be circled. These games too, early on, these good games like that, especially in our lower classifications, you're going to see those guys, possibly make up, and see each other again in the playoffs. So
No.
you got to keep your head on a swivel around there. That's for sure.
Well, no doubt about it. Well, who's our C.R. Crawford Player of the Week?
Well, this was an easy one right here. This is our Anak Hassan from Greenbrier.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we talked about it last week. Greenbrier goes to Farmington and wins 48-38. He has 39 carries for 353 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Wow.
Jeez,
Yes, the guy was massive. Can you imagine 39? I mean, they only probably ran 65 plays. This guy's carrying it for more than half of the plays.
I mean, he's just a dart, man. He's a dart, man.
I mean, it doesn't take much either. That big offensive line they have, they just have to turn their shoulders every once in a while. But their defense, actually, Greenbrier's defense stepped up too, made some big plays. But no, Anak Hassan is our player of the week for sure.
Okay, who's our small school old C.R. Crawford O-line of the week?
Well, when you're in the construction business, you got to have a foundation. That's where we get these guys. CR does it the best.
Exactly.
All right. Our big school, Rogers. How could you not go?
Rogers,
Rogers
yeah.
right there, statement game right there. You had 2 guys over 200 yards rushing the football, 436 yards on the ground in a 70-42 win over Bentonville West. They controlled everything up front. It was almost like West was trying to they were really worried about the pass outside, and these guys just got really physical up front. They were led left tackle is Henry Frazier, left guard is Andrew Cordicia, the center who was really, really good. Caden Larimore is their center. Ashada is their right guard, and Aldo Romero is their right tackle. They were really, really impressive. Like I said, they had 436 yards on the ground this big week, and a big, huge win for Rogers in that game. Our small school, CR, lay the foundation offensive line. See that plug right there? I mean, if you want to build something right, you got to build it from the ground up here. Small school, Mansfield.
Oh,
Mansfield
yeah.
showed out this week.
Yeah.
70-14 over Lavaca. Mansfield went on the road there. They've got all 5 guys back from last year's team up front, and you can tell. I'll talk about Mansfield a little bit later on too, but their left tackle, Alexandra Walters, 3-year starter returning there. Caden Orrs, their left guard. Ethan Martins is their center. You want to talk about a center, go watch that guy play. He's not the biggest dude, but man, I'm talking about that guy. I don't think he's lost a battle that I've seen yet so far. James Bosley is a right guard, and Logan Orr. That's right. Caden and Logan are brothers. Mansfield, I guess we just have like a family tree of people that just keep having siblings. So,
Yes.
yeah, our offensive line's of the Orr boys up front. They were really impressive this past week. Started off the game. I loved it. They went 4 for 4 in the passing game. They were in the
Showing off, man.
Yeah.
Showing off.
Yeah, and our announcers they told on us. They said, "Hey,
What we doing?
yeah." They gave it. They spilled the beans and said, "Hey, we're working on some stuff, putting a little something on tape right here." So started out the game 4 for 4 in the passing game.
Oh, me. Well, let's do this. Let's get into your small school top 6.
Small school top 6. Here we go. Number 6, sliding in at number 6 is Mansfield. Just talked about those guys, 70-14. Jabil Burks, that's our quarterback, and he's giving them the opportunity to actually throw the ball a little bit. And when he does, he's got some weapons to throw it to. And Silas Burton, of course, Andrew Burton's over 1,000 yards. And they were smashing people up front this past week. So they've kind of added a little bit of the gun action. Don't worry though. I mean, we're still going to go heavy. All right, we're heavy. I mean, we'll put our left tackle back there every once in a while. So Mansfield can't wait for that big showdown.
Yes.
Because it's right around the corner. Boonville was pretty impressive this past week too. Number 5, sliding into number 5. Like we said, if you beat the man, you become the man. Hamburg.
Yeah.
After 67-54 over Warren, they're going to knock Warren out of our small school Top six, Nikel Lewis is a phenomenal player. Their offensive line, we've already talked about them in the past. Caden Thomas, the quarterback.
Yes,
Man, he
unbelievable.
made some huge plays this past week, not only with his arm, but with his legs too. You could tell he's a 3-year starter, but Hamburg is getting some momentum. Coach is fired up. I think he's circled everybody on the schedule. I think he's been waiting for this one. Doing a great job there. Number 4 is going to be Fordyce, coming in at
Yeah.
6-0, 57 over Palestine Wheatley this past week. Ellison and all the weapons that they got. And I'm telling you, defensively, man, they get to the football. They swarm that sucker. There's a lot of bodies around the ball. Number 3 is Gosnell.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Well, I'm the only one giving Gosnell some plug here, by the way.
That's
All right,
right,
everybody.
man. I agree with you. We've
Man,
been
they're
on
just
those
driving
guys.
by Gosnell, just leaving them out of the conversation. But 63-12 over Truman this past week. They're averaging over 44 points a game. Here's another story about Arkansas football right now, high school football. If you're not averaging 44,
Oh my God.
43 points, you're not even in the top 20. You get that? Not even in the top 20
Crazy.
in the state of Arkansas. Because we got a bunch of crooked numbers up there. A bunch of crooked numbers are coming that way. So Gosnell's one of those guys. Jameer Allen, Kalen Young, they're explosive. They got weapons all over the place, and they're playing really good defensively.
Well, and what's scary with those guys, I don't think they're fully healthy yet either.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's every week. They've
Yeah.
played 2 different quarterbacks
Yeah.
in wins. So yeah, they're not at full speed, but man, they are rolling right now. Number 2 is Dardanelle. We survived. We survived a little competition, which I will give a tip of the hat to Coach Williams on that, because Coach Williams there right in front of me, he said that would be an interesting game, that
Yeah.
Clinton would keep it close, and they sure did. They ended up beating Clinton 26-24. Vega was 19 carries for 144 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was 11 of 18 for 120 yards through the air. He did throw 1 pick. He did make up for it with 10 tackles, though. All right, we just go in there and we're just going to get it back for us. Braden Hardy had 18 tackles in that game for Dardanelle. C.J. Chatt made some big plays for those guys, and defensively they came up with some big time turnover in that game. Number 1, Salem. Salem's going to hold on. Once again, they got pushed this week, which is probably good. Caden Brink went over 3,000 yards for his career.
Jeez.
I know it's hard to believe, but yeah, he went over to the 3,000 yard mark. Jackson Taylor, the quarterback's playing really well too. Kagan Sanderson is a monster on the defensive side. Atkins, man, Atkins was right in the middle of the game defensively too. Did a stopping the run, but they end up falling to Salem, our number 1, 20-14. So Salem's going to hang on to our number 1 spot right there. But man, we got a bunch of these guys are hiding in the woods right here. You got at 4A, you got Arkadelphia. They're sneaking around. I tell you, a team that's really hot right now too in that league, and that league is tough with Hamburg and Warren and Stuttgart.
Yes, sir.
Haim Price and QT
Yes,
Jackson, Johnson on the outside. Those guys got some weapons too. Defensively, they get to the ball too. They got a great middle linebacker down there too. And Elkins hung 83 on Lincoln this past week. I don't know. I guess they just got the urge. I don't know what the point.
I don't know what the deal, man. There's more 80 point. There's 2 of them.
83-7. Ben Napier, Connor Ham, they couldn't stop him from running the football. They're really good on the defensive side too. Elkins is making a push. Southside Batesville 57-10.
Yeah.
Over Jonesboro West Side this week. Owen McLaughlin's a phenomenal player. Like I said, Stuttgart had a big, huge win this past week over DeWitt. 3A, you got Boonville coming on. They had 4 guys scored touchdowns. 2 of them had 2 apiece. So they're pounding on the ground again. Mayflower's another one sneaker. They went 38-0 this past week. Rivercrest, Lex Latham. We got another weapon. All right, the Colts had sophomore Lex Latham right there. He led the junior high last year in rushing. They were unbelievable in junior high. He's stepping up, and he's taking some of the carries there, some of the load off there. Rivercrest went 28-21 over Hoxie this past week. Bismarck, whatever Keithley can do. I mean,
Let's get another kid out there, man.
Yeah, just that guy. That guy's got them all over the place. EPC's picked it back up. The huge win this past week over Cross County. Earl's another one scoring a bunch of points too. And then you got Hampton. We got to start talking about Hampton in that mix too. So that's our small school. Also, is our big school. Number 6 is Greenbrier.
Greenbrier. Hit the
Panther. I'm the Panther bandwagon. Right? Panther bandwagon.
I'm on it too, man.
My whole question is make sure that Enoch is on like a Scooter, maybe something that we don't even have. Maybe he doesn't use his legs the rest of the week. Maybe like just getting like something, bubble wrap that guy up because that guy's phenomenal. He was 39 for 353 yards. He's our player of the week this past week and a big, huge win for them, 48-38 over Farmington. Number 5, I tell you, this team right is, all facets of the game is Joe T. Robinson,
Yeah.
buddy. 6-0, 72-0 over Whitehall
God bless.
this past week. Deuce Williams, that offensive line, getting great quarterback play. Not making a lot of mistakes. Everybody in the state of Arkansas seems like they're getting 75,000 yards and penalties against them. These guys are kind of overcoming some of that stuff. Number 4, Greenwood. They hit a part of their schedule where they can get some people healthy here. They beat Salome this past week 42-0 to move 6-0. Then you got Rogers at our number 3 spot, 6-0. Beat West this past week 70-42. Broke out the black unis. Coach was worried about
that.
Yeah, I was clean.
he was worried
that.
about the black unis. Didn't know which way it was going to go. But let me tell you, black unis, usually kids get a little excited, especially on homecoming. That was a Hall of Fame move right there. That was a Hall of Fame move right there. Kids got it fired up. They had 591 yards of total offense, 436 yards on the ground, and 10 touchdowns. The Rogers Mounties. That's somebody's season, by the way. Once again, somebody can just end their season right there with those numbers. Phenomenal. Bentonville. It's the first back-to-back defensive shutouts for Bentonville since 2009. They went 42-0 over Heritage. It was done at halftime.
Oh, they played defense. They played defense.
Yeah, couple of kids were eating hot dogs. Yeah. I'm not going to tell on them, but there was a couple of kids snuck some hot dogs down there at halftime. No, Jody, they didn't. I was just kidding, making it up. Bryant, like I said, struggled, I guess, whatever you can say. Coach Sanders has got to come up with something. Somebody didn't take their shoes right or something. You got to fix something in practice. I would love to spend a little time with Coach Sanders just watching film, just to see what he comes. I would love to see what he comes up with. They beat PA this past week, 48-14. Like I said, they got a 3-headed monster in the backfield, and each one of those backs are different. That's what's crazy. The Robinson kid's extremely physical. The little Curtis kid is a little scat back guy, and of course TJ Hodges is kind of all three of them mixed. And then they're getting to where they're throwing it to them too. So really unbelievable there. Defensively, man, I'm telling you, the front seven defensively might be one of the best front sevens you might see maybe in the state of Arkansas ever. Those dudes are phenomenal, and they show up and they are really, really mad when they show up. Yes, they're really, really mad. Also, you got Conway on a tear right here. It's the third time they've scored 50 this past year. They went 252 yards against Cabot. Trey Harris did for 3 touchdowns. I still stick with Bentonville West in that league.
Yeah.
I still think that they've got a chance there to make some noise there, especially after beating Fayetteville. That's one of those games I'm sure Bentonville and got circled still. Shiloh. Let me tell you, Shiloh had a rough 3 games in a row. They come out there 2-1. Cole Creighton, Zane Sluter, Mad Max Eldridge, baby. Yes. Almost went over 100 again. Yeah, the Maxter. They beat Southside this past week 52-24. Kind of got rolling a little bit there. Now, here's the problem. I just read this a while ago. Shiloh wins another game, they're going to get bumped up.
Hey, congratulations. Well, come on up to 7A West, buddy.
Win too much, we just push you 7A West. Welcome to that. I'm sure Bentonville West and all those guys, hey, man, we were just getting going. Yeah. And they just stick these guys back in there with us. So, yeah, Shiloh, one more game, buddy. Yeah. Everybody's going to be cheering against you in West, by the way, not to win. Another guy, the professor, man.
I know.
Making noise.
Professor's
starting to make believers out of some folks, man.
Yes.
This week he did it on the ground. Isaiah Howe rushed the ball in a big, huge win over El Dorado, 25-10 this past week. Their defensive front played extremely well. They limited El Dorado to not very many yards running the football. Their front seven was really, really good. Tyler Hampton, their quarterback, plays phenomenal. You get that guy a quarterback, and I think he could get Coach Cook open.
Coach Cook's tight end.
I think Professor could. He could be like that the dude from Oakland, from Alabama. We just slide him out there, throw it to him, throw them.
Yes.
Yeah, they're crazy. Another also is Hot Springs.
They are. Daryl Burnett's hot.
The real deal, man. They're the real deal. Big, huge win this past week, 56-7. Man, they are playing really, really well. So they get our alsos too.
Okay. Well, Coach Cook, what's your thoughts? I'm gonna give you my Coach Fimple my thoughts, and we'll go to Bray. Is love the small school. Salem getting pushed right there. Fordyce has been steady. Gosnell's beat up but still winning. Hamburg, and I'm with you on Stuttgart. You better keep an eye on those guys in small school. Love the big school where they're at. I think Greenbrier deserves to get in on that list. Joe T. Robinson might be one of them that can move all the way up and down this thing. They're
Yeah.
talented. Rogers, I'm not doubting those guys anymore. I'm just telling
Nope.
you, it's unbelievable. Bray, what's your thought process on this? The top six of Coach Fimps.
You know what? You just said it. You know, I'm no longer going to doubt the Mounties. They're the
No,
real deal. They're every bit as qualified to be at the top of that list as any team out there. I think that when it comes down to that Bryant, Bentonville, Rogers, that little lineup, I
yeah,
think that's going to be the matchups for the rest of the year. Those are the games they're going to be the heavy hitters.
no doubt. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and bring on one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. One of my favorite coaches, Coach Kenny Smith, former head coach at Conway. Welcome to the show. Welcome back, Coach. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing good. Thank you. Thank you for having me back. And I thought you'd flush me after that last, not picking up like 5 or 6. And Coach Lunny even got on me about my picking skills. So I'll talk to a bookmaker today, Coach, and I think we'll do better.
Well, I mean, we're so excited. I mean, people view in when Coach Smith comes on. Well, guys, let's go ahead and jump in this thing. Coach, remember, always pick with your brain, not your heart. Last week I stunk. I was at 6-4. Daryl, you were 8-2. The Mouth was 8-2, and Steve Wood was 8-2. I'm back. I gotta get back on track this week. Just a really poor job. I was not prepared last week. I think. I don't know. Kind of went on some limb on some things.
Yeah, you did. You went against the grain,
Started
man.
thinking too much. Been around
Yeah.
too many guys thinking too much. All right. Game number 10, headed down to South Arkansas. And we brought these guys up already. Stuttgart, the Ricebergs, Coach Price has these guys rolling. Nobody's saying a word about them. They're fixing to get in the thick of this conference. Monticello's the first step. A lot of hyped up for them. Warren took care of them. Hamburg's taking care of those guys. But Stuttgart, this is a big game for them. We'll see where they're at.
Yeah, huge game. Huge
Yeah.
game. Stuttgart's come off a 56-28 win over DeWitt this past week. Like I said, they're led by Kane Price, who's just, you can tell that he's born to be a quarterback.
Yes.
I mean, that guy can make plays and make throws in the passing game. He's over 65% throwing the football. He's over 1,500 yards already, 20 touchdowns. QT Johnson's the guy that they throw to on the outside. Outstanding athlete, man. You get him in space, he can take it. And they're not afraid to run the ball too, in the quarterback run even. So Stuttgart's got a lot of weapons offensively. Defensively, this past week, I thought they played really well. DeWitt, it's kind of one of those that's pushing people in this league because they're pretty physical. So you got to be able to, and they can score some points too. But Stuttgart's stuck with their game and actually could stop them defensively. Monticello, of course, Monticello's at home. It's a huge game for them, because they can stay in that, that race for second, third in that league right now. And these guys are all playing each other. That's what's crazy. Monticello's dropped Warren and Hamburg, so this is kind of like a must-win for them guys to stay in that front four right there. They beat Star City last week, 56-28. Just they love to run the football with Achilles and the Jackson Hines kid at quarterback. Gets them in and out plays. Defensively is where they struggled, especially in the secondary. They've struggled with the passing game here. Stuttgart's got to go on a roll. Like we said, they've been sneaking around here. The Ricebirds, hadn't been talked about in a while right here. Here's a huge game for them. I think this makes it really interesting down the line. I'm going to take Stuttgart to beat Monticello on the road.
Going with Stuttgart, the Ricebergs. Coach Cook, here we go. Got Stuttgart really under the radar, but winning games. Monticello's been tested. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with Coach Fimp. I'm going with Stuttgart on this one. I think the Ricebirds are going to fly south for the winner, and they're going to run straight into that end zone. I think this is, like you said, under the radar, but I think they make a splash Friday night.
Going with Stuttgart. Coach Smith, the Ricebergs, Monticello and the Hillbillies down there. I mean, the Billies down there at Monticello. This ought to be a tough game. Coach Josh Price really got those guys going. Stuttgart's been underneath the radar, but they're going to get tested this Friday night.
Yeah, and that's a big game, and you'd think you'd go with the home team, but I mean, I'm gonna go with Coach Price. They've done a heck of a job, and the Riceburg Stuttgart is that community backs their school, all sports, and it's a big thing on Friday nights down there in Stuttgart to play ball. So I'm going with Coach Price and the Riceburgs.
Coach Smith's going with the Ricebergs. I'm going with the Ricebergs also. I really think they can make a run here for a conference championship. They've still got Hamburg and Warren left, but right now they're playing as good as anybody in that league, and I'm going with those guys. All right, headed over to God's country a little bit. You got Batesville Southside. Coach Kenny Simpson and them are, got beat by Gosnell earlier in the year, but going against Highland. Highland was upset by Blytheville last week, kind of unexpected there. Highland looks like they could be fighting for the playoff spot here also. Your thoughts on this one, Daryl? They're right up and down the road from each other, and they know each other pretty well.
Yes, they do. Batesville Southside coming off a 57-10 win over Jonesboro. They're only giving up about 11.2 points per game defensively. So they're really, really strong on the defensive side of the ball. Kind of lean on Owen McLaughlin, the running back. He has 85 carries for over 800 yards. He's averaged about 8 yards a whack. He's over 12 touchdowns in the year. Wyatt Bishop leads them in tackles. And like I said, defensively, they're really, really good. Highland lost last week to Blytheville 26-14. They're led by Austin Christie, their quarterback, who's 93 of 144 for over 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns on the year. Highland's one of those teams that can they got a really, really good quarterback. Offensive line's pretty good too. They could push Batesville in this game, but man, Batesville doesn't turn it over.
Nope.
I mean, that's what's crazy about it. They don't ever turn the ball over. Coach Simpson and them, they take care of that sucker, and they play really good defense. They're not afraid to punt.
Yeah, got to punt every now and then, guys.
Smith, you gotta have a punter.
Punt, don't you, Coach? You got to punt.
You gotta use a punter. Coach Vines used to say it's okay to have an all-state punter. All right, I'm taking Batesville Southside.
Taking Batesville Southside. All right, Coach Cook, here we go, man. Batesville Southside and Highland know each other. Big implications for playoffs in this spot. Can Highland bounce back?
Yeah, I don't know enough about these two teams to jump on in there and give my expert analysis. So I did phone some friends. They said no question, Southside takes this ball game. Not even going to be competitive. So those are their words, not mine. But I'm just going to follow the words of the experts.
Statement games from friends. I like it.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Coach Smith, Batesville Southside, when you were coaching and I was playing, they didn't even have football, but they do now, and they're playing pretty well. And the old Highland Rebels, they got beat by Blytheville last week. Huge game. Your thoughts?
Well, they love sports up there. Again, I always have. But, when back in the day, it was Hardy Island.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know when they fired Hardy. But anyway, I'm going with Batesville Southside. I think they're ready.
Okay, going Batesville Southside. I am too. I feel like they really got it together. Can Highland bounce back? It is at Highland's a tough place to play, but I'm going with Batesville Southside. All right, heading up to Northwest Arkansas. This one here, you got Elkins, who scored 80-something points last week against Prairie Grove. Prairie Grove has been pretty consistent. They've always been consistent in that league. They'll be ready to go. Daryl, can Prairie Grove, slow Elkins down, and can they limit those possessions?
Well, you got to think that Elkins this past week scored 83
I
points.
know.
They went 83-6 over Lincoln. Here's the thing about Elkins is different. They can run the football.
Yeah.
Ben Napier's their quarterback. He's been 3-year starter. Their Connor Ham is their little tailback. He's really, really good player too. Their offensive line's really good. But Elkins defensively this might be Coach Watson's best defensive team. They're only giving up 8 points a game, and like I said, they're scoring a bunch. So they got a good balanced team. They do go to Prairie Grove, and Prairie Grove could give them trouble because Prairie Grove is extremely physical. They've rushed the football over 1,800 yards in the year right now, led by Elijah Sugg, who's over 1,000 yards on the season right now. Blake Coffrin is over 700 yards on the ground. So these guys can run the football, keep you off. They're playing really good defense too. They're at home. Nobody's really talking about them too. They gave Farmington early on all they wanted in that game. So Prairie Grove at home is kind of intriguing. but I'm going to go with Elk.
Yeah, I figured that. I thought we were going the other direction because of the new turf. We got new turf. We don't have grass
Scared me.
anymore. Prairie Grove.
Well,
All right.
finally, the battlefield.
Exactly. Coach Cook, you know these two teams
Yeah.
well. You know, when you're at
Yeah.
Pea Ridge, you played them both. Talk to us a little bit about this one. Big rival. They should be a huge crowd. Can Elkins sustain their dominance in that conference?
Yeah, a couple things. One, I just texted my buddy.
Oh.
I was good to take off the Tennessee
Yeah, man.
jersey,
We
so,
got
so we're
to tell
back
you.
in our home attire.
Yes.
Secondly, yes, I do know these teams very well. Well coached teams, great people on both sides of the ball. But we played Elkins in our benefit game, and the reason we did that was because nobody else in the dang state wanted to line up against Elkins. And so, using that, I've seen them up close and personal. I don't see how Prairie Grove competes Friday night against a very impressive Elkins squad.
All right. Coach Smith, the Elkins of Prairie Grove. Prairie Grove's got turf now, Coach. They got rid of the grass. So, I mean, we could be a difference maker.
I hope that'll help them. But from what I'm gathering from you excellent commentators is I'm going with Elkins. They sound like that, they got it rolling.
They do. They do. Coach Smith's going with Elkins. I'm going with Elkins also. I think Coach Watson, them, and that's another team, Daryl, for your top six. They're kind of, had a little loss to Dardanelle early, but they're starting to hit their stride. I'm going with Elkins. All right, headed down to Southwest Arkansas. This is a team Coach Smith will know real good. We got Hot Springs and Daryl Burnett, and them are on fire. I mean, beat Parkview earlier, dominated last week. Going down to Magnolia. Magnolia coming off a 2-point defeat against the Fighting Vaughns of Camden Fairview. Magnolia needs one of these games to stay in the mix as far as the playoffs. Huge game right here. Talk to us about this one. Burnett and the Trojans are putting up huge numbers, though.
Yeah, Hot Springs won last week 56-7 over DeQueen, led by Bishop Allen, their quarterback's over 1,700 yards through the air. He's got so many weapons. Gabe Jamie's probably their big explosive guy. He's over 500 yards through the air. Jamarcus Mourning is almost 700 yards through the air. So these guys have combined. Those two wide receivers got 12 touchdowns on the year. So they're big play capability. They can run it a little bit inside too. Defensively, they kind of swarm to the ball. They're not real big, but they're real fast, which makes a change. They're playing at Magnolia. Magnolia's coming off a loss to Camden Fairview, 42-40. Had a hard time. Camden Fairview finally I think they went 17 tight ends and just snapped it to quarterback. We're just gonna try to run this thing quarterback power the entire second half. It seemed, or fourth quarter, it seemed like in that game. Like I said, Camden Fairview ends up winning on that one. So Magnolia's kind of fighting for their playoff life. Right? They got a big, huge home game against Hot Springs. I think Coach Burnett's got those guys on another level right now. He's got them believing. So I'm going to take Hot Springs on the road.
Taking Hot Springs. All right, Coach Cook, right here. Hot Springs at Magnolia. Hot Springs is putting up big numbers. Magnolia's fighting for the playoff life.
Yeah. We talked about last time I was on here how, I've seen Magnolia up close and personal. I've seen what they got down there, and very impressive stuff, very impressive programs. But, man, I love Hot Springs. And you go down there, you get some DeLuca's pizza, you go down there, hit the horses. I mean, Hot Springs is one of my favorite places on earth. I'm actually going to go visit Oakland tomorrow on a work trip. So we'll get a lot of things done, I'm sure. But taking Hot Springs, I don't see them losing this one.
All right, Coach Cook's taking Hot Springs. All right, Coach Smith, Magnolia, you used to coach down there. Hot Springs and Daryl Burnett. They've been playing hot. Magnolia's fighting for the playoff lives.
Well, I keep up with Coach Burnett a little bit. I have relatives and so forth and friends in Hot Springs, and man, he really has. He's done a fantastic job there. And they're going to Magnolia. Magnolia's got one heck of a facility to play in, and it's really. But I mean, I got to go with the Trojans.
Going with the Trojans. Coach Smith's going with the Trojans. I love what Coach Adam Kirby's doing at Magnolia. I mean, they're right there on the cuffs. But I tell you what, I saw Hot Springs this summer, knew they were going to have a good football team, and I'm going with the Trojans also. But I think this one will be close. So I think it will be close. All right, headed down to Southeast Arkansas. Now, gosh, we got a lot of things going on with this one. We got Searcy Lions who is unbelievable on defense. The new Coach Clark's got them rolling, and then at Pine Bluff, this is the first game they've had in a while. Searcy has, where they've kind of gearing up for their long stretch here in this conference. Pine Bluff's got all kinds of issues. Lost their coach, all kinds of things going on down there. We're not going to get into all that, but got some issues going on. Break this one down, Daryl. Talking to coaches, Pine Bluff scares everybody to death, but can they get it together? The Searcy has not been tested since week 2 against Valley View. Talk to us.
Well, Searcy's coming off a 48-27 win over Jacksonville, and you'll say, but I'm telling you, Jacksonville's got some weapons too.
And we're down 17-0.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing about Searcy is, they have to, when you're trying to get there, it takes a while to get there. Sometimes the kids lose their focus a little bit, and like Jacksonville had some weapons, so that definitely played into that game. But defensively, man, that's where it starts with at Searcy. They're giving up 11 points a game, and they're really, really good up front. Caden Hickman leads them in tackles with 57 on the year. Jacob Miles, their quarterback, is settling in, and he's a tough dude, man. I think Coach Clark said if he could play any position other than quarterback, it'd be middle linebacker. I like that. Now you're a sophomore quarterback. Of course, he's got like 2 older brothers that always used to beat the heck out of him.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I guess that's what makes Jacob.
And Coach Clark always wanted to be a middle linebacker too. Just didn't have the genetics.
Yeah, his hair was too pretty to be a middle linebacker. But Jacob Miles is over 1,400 yards. He takes care of the ball, makes great decisions, especially as a sophomore quarterback. And they can run the football too. Searcy can. Pine Bluff going through some stuff. Of course, you don't know how kids rally around that kind of thing. Coach, I'm sure the new coach is, kind of on an interim tag. There's just, kind of keeping them upbeat. And this is a tough game. But this is a game that Searcy really needs to make a statement in. Because if you give Pine Bluff a chance and they start believing, then you're in for the old zebras to show up.
Yes.
You don't want the old zebras to show up. No. You want to keep them under wraps. So I'm going to take Searcy in this one on the road.
Taking Searcy. All right, Coach Cook. Searcy's going to they haven't been tested. Let's just be out there. They haven't been tested since Valley View, and looks like Valley View's probably going to win the 5A East. But the last 3 weeks, kind of just getting through it. This is their big chance to make a statement. Pine Bluff's in kind of disarray, but sometimes that's when it gets scary down there in Jordan Stadium.
Yeah, it can be a little scary in that type of situation. Not really sure how that team's going to respond. And like Coach said, if you give them a chance, they can take that momentum and run with it. But at the end of the day, those zebras don't bite, but Searcy's hungry. I think Searcy shows up and puts on a clinic.
Searcy shows up and puts on a clinic. All right, Coach Smith, your thoughts?
Well, I followed Coach Clark in his playing career and in his coaching career. I have ultimate respect for him and his family. But, I'm going with Searcy Lions.
Going with Searcy Lions. I'm going to go with Searcy also. But, Coach, as well as I do, down there at Jordan Stadium, if you got to be ready to go. I mean, they play well.
Things can happen.
Things can happen. It's happened to me and you down there a few times. It can happen. I'm going to go with Searcy. I think they're just too good defensively. That front 7 is dominant as anybody in the state of Arkansas at all levels. I'm going to go with Searcy also. All right. Headed over to God's country. You got Jonesboro, who, man, has been right there. It looks like, man, Coach George has got that thing turned around. Marion is kind of in the driver's seat a little bit here, but they're the only ones to beat the Professor in Sylvan Hills. Huge playoff implications. Maybe possible conference championship in line here. Talk to us, Daryl.
Well, Jonesboro's come off a 31-14 win over Catholic. They're led by Asa Myers, their quarterback. Yeah. Cameron Davis, a big strike wide receiver, over 600 yards receiving already. Asa's over 1,300 yards passing. Jonesboro is explosive offensively. Defensively, I think they've gotten better as the season progressed. They started out against Conway. I don't know if they ever stopped anybody. Conway might still be scoring, but I think they've gotten better and better every week. And they're playing really good right now. Marion is tricky too.
They are.
Sometimes Marion looks really, really good. Sometimes they just look like they're just kind of going through the motions. This past week, they beat West Memphis 28-25, who's been struggling all year long. They still have so many explosive players: Enrico Ward, J.D. Dent, Jeremy Dent, the younger brother of JD, is the wide receiver that makes big plays. Zayden Walker, their quarterback, he can run it and throw it. I mean, they got everything going for them. Like I said, they've got a big, huge win over Sylvan Hills, at Sylvan Hills too. By the way,
Yeah.
that game was at Sylvan Hills, which was huge for Marion in this conference. So Marion's at home in this one. Jonesboro makes the trip over. These guys don't like each other either.
No, they do not.
They really don't
Yes.
like each other there. But I'm telling you, this is going to be a huge game for especially both programs in this one. And if Jonesboro screws this thing up, they go over there and beat them, that league becomes
Oh, it's
crazy.
upside down, man.
Oh, it becomes crazy. All right. Do we want that? I think that
Yeah,
helps.
yeah, we do.
Yeah, it
We
helps
want it.
ratings. I'm taking Jonesboro. I'm taking
Taking
Hurricane on.
Jonesboro. We talked him into it, taking the Hurricanes over there. All right, Coach Cook, Jonesboro could screw the whole league up. And Marion, it's like Coach Fimple said, some weeks they look great. Some weeks they, just kind of go through the motions. Which group's going to show up? Talk to us about this one.
Well, you always start this podcast off. You say, choose with your head, not your heart. But I want to see a little bit of chaos. Give me Jonesboro going there and tossing in a little bit of chaos in the division.
Right here, got Jonesboro at Marion. Marion beat the Professor in Sylvan Hills a couple weeks ago. Struggled with West Memphis, who's struggled all year, but that's a rival game. These two, let's throw it out there. That's a rival game. They don't like each other either. Talk to us about this one.
Yeah, and that weighs a lot. Trust
It
me.
does.
Well, no, it weighs a lot. I've gotten to see both those teams play, and Moore Marion has got a lot of good-looking children on the hoof. They look good in their uniforms, and I'm going with Marion.
Going with Marion. Coach Smith's going with Marion. I'm going to go with Marion also. They're at home. This thing could go either way, but I think they just make enough plays to get it done. Jonesboro's been real close all year long. All right, headed down to South Arkansas. Good Lord, let's talk about this bunch. You got Benton, who's just scored how many, Daryl? 180? 87, guys. They scored 87 last week against Sheridan. Headed down to El Dorado. El Dorado got beat by the Professor last week in a tight ball game against Sylvan Hills. El Dorado's fighting for playoff seats. Benton's still fighting for a conference championship. Break this one down, Daryl. I mean, the numbers, good Lord have mercy.
Yeah, Benton, 87-42 over Sheridan.
Good Lord.
87-42. That's 129 points.
That's a podcast by itself right there, guys.
Yeah, that's a season. Once again, you're statistically talking about a season for somebody. Drew Davis was phenomenal. I don't know, onside kicking was as great as ideal this week, but I mean, I don't know much. I'm just, I don't know. There's got to be a time where that's just scary. But anyway, Drew Davis, he's unbelievable. And he also committed to SAU this past week.
Did he really? Okay, well, good for him.
The Mule Riders just got him a quarterback, and then that guy can play. He's got so many weapons, and finally they're healthy offensively, and it showed this past week defensively. They're getting better every week. Once again, they can't figure out. I guess this past week though, they threw it so well it didn't really matter. But El Dorado is another team that ground and pound. The J.J. Samuels kid is a big time running back there. They get him in space a lot of times. They're really physical defensively. They had some trouble stopping the run this past week. So Benton, they might lean on their offensive line a little bit here. Another game that could cause this whole league
screw it all up.
Yeah, chaos again. But I think Benton's on a roll, got some momentum there. I think Benton goes to El Dorado and wins.
All right, going with Benton. Coach Cook, Benton, 87 points last week. El Dorado coming off a tough loss against Sylvan Hills. I mean, once again, Benton's fighting for a conference championship, and El Dorado's fighting for playoff seedings. This thing could get all screwed up. Talk to us.
I aside from when they line up against Bryant, I don't choose against Coach Harris. I think he does a great job with this program down there. They're not going to be stopped Friday night. I'm taking Benton.
Taking Benton. All right, Coach Smith, going down to Union County down there in El Dorado is always a tough place to play. But Benton, my God, I'm going to ask you this, Coach. In your lifetime, did you ever think you'd see in 1 week two teams score over 80 points and so many over 70? Is it bad defense or great offense? Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I read that in Saturday's newspaper, and Malham and I competed against each other for a long time, and we, in our 18 years of competing against each other, we didn't score that many points in 18 years. But anyway, no, I can't, I can't believe that. But back to this game, I read today in the paper where Coach Harris has got two running back healthy for the first time together.
Yeah.
And that was pretty impressive reading. But I'm going with Benton.
Going Benton. Coach Smith's going Benton. I'm going with the Panthers also. And I hate to say it's the third week in a row I pick against El Rey. They probably won't let me back down there. And I hate to do that because love those folks down there and one of the greatest football towns. But I think Benton, you're scoring 87, man. I don't. Drew Davis has just been off the charts last couple weeks. I'm going with Benton also. All right, head over to God's Country. It's a game we added here late. Is Blyville and Rod Stinson coming in, taking over that program? Took down Highland last week. Headed over to Gosnell, big rival. I mean, obviously in the same town, kind of like a Springdale, Harvard, Northside, Southside situation. Huge, and they're in the same conference. Rivals popped their head up and said, "Hey, we're not going anywhere." Gosnell's had some injuries, but they keep rolling. Talk to me about this one, Daryl.
Yeah, Gosnell, is definitely rolling. Blyville had a big win this past week over Highland, 26-14. Courtney Rogers is their big tailback. He's a 64 carries on the year, over 1,000 yards, almost 11 yards a touch, and he's got 6 touchdowns on the year for Blyville. Blyville defensively did a great job against the pass this past week against Highland. Gosnell can do a little bit of everything. They're coming off a big 63-12 win over Truman. They're averaging 43 points a game offensively.
Yeah.
And like I said, they haven't been healthy the entire year so far. So Gosnell's at home, and like I said, they've taken on every challenge that's come that way. And I think they take care of this one. I think Gosnell at home.
Gosnell at home. All right, over to God's Country. I drove you through there this year, Coach Cook, when we were headed over to Memphis. Talk to me about this one.
Yeah, driving through there is about the only time I've ever been in one of these spots. This is a first for me. I could not. I'm not going to say I couldn't point them out on a map because, like you said, I've been there. But I did phone a friend. Some friends on this situation. Called some buddies back home in God's Country, and they agree with Coach Fimp. Gosnell.
Gosnell all the way. All right, Coach Smith, big rival here, man. And Rod Stinson's doing a great job at Blyville and getting that thing turned around. But Gosnell's got Fimp's number 3 team in our small school. Talk to us about this one. Big rival.
Well, I relate. We all do to the rivalries.
Yes.
And a lot of times, they used to say, you can throw what happened till now out the door. But I'm gonna go with the home team. I'm gonna go with the home team in a big rivalry game.
Coach Smith's going with Gosnell. I'm gonna go Gosnell also. I just think that I think they're gonna win that league and they're gonna make a run to playoffs. They can get those guys healthy, but hats off to Rod Stinson, and he'll have them ready. And Blyville could be a factor. All right, here we go. Small school game of the week right here. This one here was circled in. Hampton kind of messed this one up. A lot of people thought this before the conference championship, but Hampton's got something to say about it. We got Poen, kind of the new kids on the block, headed over to Carlisle. Well, Carlisle bounced back off that difficult loss. Poen's coming in. Coach Barrett, they've got a great quarterback, and they feel like they belong in this league also.
Yeah, they were picked second in this league starting out when they started the season. Cole Barrett is the quarterback. That's Coach's son. Big guy, about 6'8". He can throw it all over the place. Had 500 yards in a game this early in the season. He's signed with UAM. He committed to UAM. Caden Townley, he had over 300 yards in the same game at wide receiver for them. So they like to put it in the air there. Poen does. Defensively, it's going to be the big key. Can they hold up against Carlisle and all the things that Carlisle can do? Because they can do just about anything they want to. And then, like I said, they're discussing that bubble screen Monday morning. They're having a town hall meeting. We're going to talk about the bubble screen.
Yeah.
Hampton hit them with there. The loss to Hampton this past week, 36-28, which kind of shakes up that conference right there. Once again, they're doing it on the defensive side. Carlisle up until that week, or up until last week, was only giving up 9 points a game. So they get after the quarterback there. They did a great job stopping the run last week. Like I said, Hampton kind of shook them a little bit. Up until then, they only gave up 42 points on the season. They gave up 36 to Hampton. So was it a fluke or is it
Yeah.
circled? I'm sure practice is going to be really interesting this week. I think Poland's going into a buzzsaw here. I think Carlisle's at home. I'm going to take Carlisle at home in the small school game of the week.
Good taking Carlisle. All right, Coach Cook, Poland and the Carlisle Bisons. Can Carlisle, they're not used to losing in the regular season. Can they bounce back?
Yeah, they're not used to losing, and they're not going to get used to losing. The Buffalo are running wild in the pasture. I'm taking Carlisle.
Taking Carlisle. Coach Smith, you Carlisle Bisons over there, rich tradition. Poland's the new kids on the block. Carlisle ain't used to losing in the regular season. How do you get your team to bounce back? Because you could slip up and be in real trouble, or maybe stay in the driver's seat.
Well, Carlisle Bisons have been led by my buddy, my dear man, George David Williams. And he got the Bisons rolling over there. And lifelong assistant Scott Schwartz played there. Rich Hillman, another good friend, played there. That Bison tradition is deep. And so I'm picking the Bison. That's an easy pick for me.
The easy pick for Coach Smith and the Bisons. Well, since I was the first kindergarten class at Carlisle, you know who I'm taking. My gosh.
Amen.
I mean, you got to take care of your people over there a little bit. But
That's right.
But I like Carlisle. I think that this could be a tough one. I mean, they hadn't had a regular season loss in so long. I know the last few years and being in a weird situation. But I tell you what, I think they'll strap it on, and be ready to go this Friday night, and I'm taking the Bisons also. All right, big school game of the week. This is off the charts here, guys. Up here in Northwest Arkansas, we got Bentonville, Fayetteville. Before we do that, let's bring on head football coach from Bentonville, Coach Jody Grant.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Well, Coach, you guys have been just rolling. I mean, right all the way through this thing. You've played a really tough non-conference schedule. That obviously we'll get into it, the 7A West, but as tough as it's been, and the points and everything. And let's go ahead and get into this a little bit. Is you're a former defensive guy. We had two schools scored over 80 points this week and a bunch of 70s. Talk to me. Is it bad defense or just great offense?
Well, I think it might be a combination of both of those. I think it about has to be, because if teams are scoring 80 points, nobody wants to be the defensive coordinator on the other end of that. I also, some of the unique things that offensive coordinators are coming up with, and some of the ways that they're finding ways to move the ball and score is really been kind of interesting and innovative in a way is what you're seeing. So I think it's kind of a combination of all that. You give a group of guys too much time in a room, they're going to find a way to score. So I think that's what's going on.
Well, I was just wondering, as an old defensive coordinator, you did it for years with defensive-minded guys. I talked to some of you, so especially some of these guys that are not anymore, and they just don't understand it. I said they need to get down there on a Sunday and try to stop some of these guys also. We'll see if they understand it. Well, let's get into it to your bunch. Coach Fimple's got y'all ranked number 2 right there with Brian and in your league. And you guys have, who they put in front of you, you've taken care of business. And this league is week in, week out, and you've got a tough opponent. Your big school game of the week against Fayetteville. Before we get into Fayetteville, talk to us about your progression of your team. You knew you were going to have a good team coming in this year, and where are we at as far as the progression of your squad?
Yeah, we play a tough non-conference, and we do that in preparation for this conference. And that, so far everything's going like we expected. Our kids, had a chance early to see some really good competition, and we're 3 games into conference play, and we're about to get into the meat of it. And I'm proud of our conference. I think our conference is representing really well. There's good football across the board. So, all the things are aligning for the 7A West to be some contenders in that group, which is what the 7A West needs. The Central had been so dominant for a long time. As a member of the 7A West, I'm proud of the way our conference is playing football. So, but like our kids are progressing well. There's always bumps in the road. You always, deal with some things. We're still fighting a little penalty issue where we're We got to find the fine line between, flying around with the football and knowing when to, stop. There's a whistle for a purpose. And, we have to remind our guys of that. And, there's some things we're working on cleaning up, but, defensively, we're playing really, really good football right now. Offensively, we have a chance to be really, really explosive, and we've shown signs of that. We just got to clean up some minor mistakes for us to really be what we're capable of being.
But and those things happen, those penalties and things, and you got to get cleaned up for a big game like you got this week. Well, let's get into the Purple Dogs. It's been a long rival. This goes way back in state finals to, conference championships. And let's just throw it out there. Fayetteville's kind of a wild card, kind of been up and down. West, we got beat by West and lost 3 in a row, Texas High West, and Rogers came back last week against Northside with a win. Very talented bunch. You just don't want to be the group where they get it all together, and they're a wild card. Talk to me a little bit the problems. The quarterback obviously is a great player. Talk about the problems that you see on film. What this Fayetteville bunch can cause you.
Well, when you watch Fayetteville on film, you don't see a 3-3 football team. You see a football team that's very talented on both sides of the ball. Well coached, do a good job. They've played, they've went through a pretty good little gauntlet themselves, 3 of the last 4 weeks. And so, and listen, it's not like they, the deal at West, I think a lot of things went against them. West had a lot to do with that, but a lot of turnovers and just some circumstances that, one of those games that just a little bit unique. And then what a shootout that was with Rogers, who's obviously very talented. And, I think the verdict is still out on a lot of these teams. I think we can't sit here and nail down who's the top teams when they hadn't all played each other yet. So I see Fayetteville as a top team in our conference. As we progress through and watch film, I'm seeing a very talented offense, a very talented defense. They're capable of sneaking up on anybody, even if you even want to call it sneaking up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those deals where Fayetteville's Fayetteville. They're always going to be good. They're going to be talented. I haven't got to see a Fayetteville offensive football team without a Division I quarterback. I'd love to see what that would look like, because they got a Division I quarterback over there every year.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And you've been through the part. I know one year in the 7A West, they had 5 Division I quarterbacks one year, and my former defense coordinator, Coach Fimple, was like, golly, you ain't got time to bleed, man. And they do. And I agree with you. They've had, big time quarterbacks, and this kid Hendricks is as good as anybody I've seen.
Yeah, he's extremely talented. I think his just football intellect is what's so impressive, and just at a young age, and guy makes some throws that are very, very impressive. And so, and it's, it's one thing for him to do all that, but he's got guys to throw it to as well. So they're doing a good job with that. And so, we'll have our work cut out for us, and they're doing some good things, obviously, on defense too. A lot of people talk about that quarterback and their offense, but defensively, they got some dudes over there too. So they've flown around, played well. I looked at Texas High. Texas High is a really good program, and got some guys over there. So, and Rogers and West are good teams in our conference, especially, West and Rogers are as offensively gifted as any team in the state. So, they've been, Fayetteville's been battle tested and held their own. I mean, truthfully, they had a chance to beat Rogers. And so, I'm seeing good football across the board, but with those guys.
Well, no doubt. And before we get you off here, let's talk about this, not giving anything away here. Matchups are key matchups. I mean, you're going this deal. Fayetteville. I mean, my gosh, you played them 133 times the last so many years or whatever, and you know them, and usually end up playing them twice most time. What are some key matchups? You talked about you guys not getting penalties, not turning it over, and those little things that kind of hampered you a little bit. It hadn't been a issue as far as winning a football game, but in this game it could be. What are some matchups that we need to look for in this ball game?
Well, I mean, obviously you need to see, how's our secondary going to match up with their talented receiving core? How do the offense and defensive lines match up? I mean, as well as I do, that's where the games are won and lost right there. And so, we've got to be able to run the football and protect our quarterback, and we got to be able to be disruptive on the defensive side. I'm sure Coach Dick would say the same thing on his end. They got to be able to protect their quarterback and have some success running the ball. So, that's what I would say if I'm looking at this thing from a neutral perspective. I would want to see, like, who's going to win the line of scrimmage and what this is going to look like. And I think who wins the line of scrimmage and that might be determine who the winner of the game.
Usually does, man. It always does. Everybody likes the high flying stuff and all that deal, but those guys in the trenches usually those ones that win the ball games weekend. Well,
That's right.
Coach, I appreciate you taking time. I know you're busy in the lab and all that deal, taking time with us, and good luck to you. And we'll have you on again down the road.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks a lot.
See you, buddy. Well, you can see Coach Grant feels good about his team. Obviously, Daryl, you got him sitting there number 2, probably 1A, 1B with them and Bryant. But the penalties and some turnovers, they've had some difficulties. Let's all look at over there at Fayetteville. They're a wild card, man. I mean, and they're a dangerous team. The lost 3 in a row, bounced back last week against Northside. Got a great quarterback. Anything can happen. This game could be a wild one.
Oh, very much so. It could be, but I tell you what, Bentonville does really, really good is they defend. They defend.
Yes, they play defense, guys.
They get after you defensively, and it's hard to move those guys up front. That's why they're a lot like Bryant in that 1A conversation there. Bentonville 6-0, had a big win last week over Heritage. It was 28-0 at the half. Coach Lepecki has played phenomenal football at the quarterback position. He has became more than just a game manager. He's actually making plays, especially when you're throwing it outside to Irvin in the game. Chris Finklin, that offensive line, they'll lean on you too. He's over 700 yards on the year, a couple touchdowns. And like I said, they've been able to kind of rest those guys and gain some depth in these games. And that's kind of how Coach Grant looks like he's been using it. Fayetteville is at home here. Their back's against the wall here too. Man, that's something to say right there with that program, the pride that they have in themselves. But Hank Hendricks gives them his chance. That guy's over 2,300 yards of total offense. I mean, that guy's rolling at quarterback. Katavian Taylor's his outside guy. Kenyon Johnson also is explosive too in the passing game. Both of those guys are over 700 yards apiece. But Hendricks can get outside the pocket too and use his legs real well. Defensively is the problem. Can they Bentonville's going to run it at you until they want to throw it. It's one of those gigs. We do what we want to do. So Bentonville on the road here, a big, huge challenge. This is, Bentonville, Fayetteville, for years, that's been kind of the battle. And
hey, they don't like each other either. I don't.
Those guys have played the final game against each other a little bit. Let's just be honest here. Those guys have played on the final game a couple of times, but I'm going to take Bentonville on the road on this one. I know that's a shocker, but I think this could be an interesting game too.
I do too.
Like I said, the Fayetteville, you don't win championships in Fayetteville and forget about how you did it. So they're as talented as anybody.
No doubt. Coach Cook, you work with Varsity Vibes. You're around both these programs, and you've seen the ups and downs. Bentonville's been a steady train all year long. You've as a player experienced about playing at Fayetteville and those situations. Talk to us about this game.
I think Coach just said it, right. You don't win championships at Fayetteville and forget how you did it. But I've been around both these programs a whole lot these last couple months, been able to be around the players, the coaches, practices, games. Fayetteville, very athletic football team. They have the ability to go out there and win these games. And I'm not saying they're not going to, but when you're around that Bentonville team just seems angry. They just seem like they're pinpoint, they're focused, they're there, no survivors type situation. It's in my mind, it's tough to see them losing to Fayetteville on Friday night, going in there with the mentality and focus that they've shown these last several weeks of this season.
Going with Bentonville. Coach Smith, you've seen Bentonville. They played your Wampus Cats earlier this year. In Fayetteville, you've seen they played the Wampus Cats quite a bit in the playoffs the last few years. Fayetteville, talk to us a little bit. You watch both of these. I ain't got to tell you about them.
Well, and really they both, as you well know, they both got tremendous coaching staffs.
Yeah.
They really do. And they do a great job. And their kids, Bentonville, again, going back to that Marion deal, those children look different on the hoof in those uniforms. They fill out a uniform. Good looking group of young men. And I hate, normally in a situation like this, I would take the home team, but I'm going to go with Bentonville.
Going with Bentonville. Well, this one it's a wild card. I mean, I still think Fayetteville's a wild card, and I've been part of that where you think, well, they're gonna bounce back, and all of a sudden they show up, and it's a problem. Bentonville, I'm gonna go off what Coach Cook says. I think they are a very confident football team, an angry football team, and a goal-oriented team, and they know where they got to go. And Fayetteville's in the way, and I think they take care of business on this one. All right, guys. To recap, let's go ahead and recap. What's a couple? I mean, another 10 great games again this week, Daryl. What are a couple things you're looking forward to some of these games?
Well, you look at the Carlisle game.
Yeah.
You got the bounce back at home. Let's see what we do there. That's a big one. Bentonville, Fayetteville, which we just talked about. Both those games are huge on the season. And then you've got to go down there and see exactly Gosnell. Do they make a statement in that game? Then you got Monticello that's kind of hanging on in that game. How do they respond in that one? Do they shake that whole league up there? So there's some big games that are going to shake out that those first four teams, especially in the small school stuff.
No doubt. Coach Cook, your thoughts?
Gosh, moving forward in the 7A West, thinking about that group of games, you think about Harbor. You're at Bentonville West. You got Northside the week after that, and then Rogers and Fayetteville. Northside, God bless them, but I mean that's a hard little gauntlet you got coming up. And how do you finish out the season coming off a loss to Springdale? And then of course we talked about Rogers. I really want to see that Rogers Bentonville matchup, because that's just going to be, it's going to be fireworks coming down the pipe. But Friday night, I think Bentonville's got to come out and make a statement against Fayetteville. I think Bentonville West is going to do the same against Harbor. And I'll be wearing that Harbor blue. So that's tough to say, but I think both those two teams have got to come out and do some big things, because that Bentonville West Bentonville game is gonna have a lot on the line.
Yeah, no doubt. Coach Smith, your thoughts? We're in week 7. It's hard to believe what matchups, start things. After this week, everything looked like it was set up. It's starting to separate itself and starting to tighten up. Your thoughts down the stretch here of the regular season?
And that's a great point. That the point where we are in the season, and there's a lot of stuff going to shake loose this weekend in the conferences. The Bentonville Fayetteville thing is that's big. Yeah. That will be a heck of a spectator game to watch, I think. And Bentonville, like I say, they got it going on, and Barry Lunny got that thing jump started, but it just kept on rolling. But again too, I'm gonna be interested to see that Carlisle Bison score. I always look for it because of George David Williams and because of Swartz and his parts. And I'm also going to be very interested in Zach Clark.
Yeah,
I hope he has a good week and finishes up with a heck of a year.
Well, I'm with you. I tell you what, guys, the 2 6A East games. I mean, Jonesboro, Marion, Benton, Eldray, that thing could be shook up 100 different directions.
Hey, forget about Stuttgart.
Well, and that was the other one. That was the other one I was going to hit with Stuttgart. You're looking at those guys. They could make a statement. I mean, that whole league, I think that league's a little better than what we thought it was going to be.
Oh, yes, sir.
It's gotten a lot better. Well, guys, before we get off here, let me go ahead and thank our sponsors one more time. The Coaches Pod Network is powered by Lindsey and Associates. Our Player of the Week is sponsored by C.R. Crawford and Construction. All other sponsors, Monetary Lending, The Collective and Ben's Apartment, Sports Clips, Hootens, and we are the official podcast of the ARFCA. Well, for Coach Jeff Williams, Coach Daryl Fimple, Coach Bray Cook, and our guest picker, Coach Kenny Smith, we'll see you next time.